Week 2 of the NFL season is here, and if you're building your daily fantasy football lineups, whether it be on DraftKings or FanDuel, we got the analysis that you need for Week 2 NFL DFS action. Colby Conway, Ron Rigney, here to break your DFS lineups down on consistently cashing.
Yeah, I bet on myself. Yeah, I bet on myself. I don't need you, I do it myself. Yeah, I bet on myself. Yeah, I bet on myself. Yeah.
Daily fantasy football is back in action for Week 2 here at Consistently Cashing. I'm back from a week layoff. I got Ron Rigney back here again with me. Per usual, 2 for 2 in clutch games is that guy over there. So, Ron, you were here last week. You get the baton first. We kind of broke down our lineup, doing a little bit differently this year. We're going right to the lineup and the players that we're doing. We might touch on some other people, but we're mainly going to focus on the lineup we're building and why, diving a little bit more into that. So, ultimately, we settled in on a particular AFC East gunslinger or quarterback. So, talk to me why Josh Allen became our play at QB.
You know, I started out with Drake May. Still like Drake May. Just the only thing I don't like about Drake May in this scenario is just the weapons that he has or lack thereof. I know he's got Stephon Diggs, but again, we were able to fit Josh Allen in, and it was actually pretty easy. And you know, I talked about him. He's one of my props this week to go over that 230.5 passing yards point. You saw him just go absolutely nuclear Sunday night, 394, handful of scores, ran it in I think at least one time as well. Scored 41.8 points on DraftKings last week. Ownership's probably going to be high, but again, we're looking for those cash games. We're looking to, beat that half of the crowd. So you got to have those guys that have that high floor, and they're going to be kind of your base go-to guys. And I think that Josh Allen is going to do that at $7,100. Again, when you look at him, he is the highest priced quarterback on the slate. But when you look at the other players that we got and the prices that we got him for, and the other names we were able to fit in, I think it's pretty solid that we were able to get him in at $7,100. So I feel pretty good about it.
Even on a bad game, you're looking at 18 to 20 fantasy points. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think on the slate you can get away with lower priced QBs. Like, like you mentioned Drake May. If I kick it back over here to other quarterbacks, you don't need to go this cheap. That's for sure. But I don't mind Joe Flacco at 5,000 against Baltimore because he doesn't need to do much to pay off the value. But Drake May is obviously a good value at 5,200. Justin Fields is still a little too cheap there at 57 as well. But I'm all in on Josh Allen with you as well. In this lineup, the main guy that I was kind of banging the drum for was Derrick Henry. Here's the thing. The guy's so good. The usage is sky high. I don't expect Cleveland to get ahead of Baltimore, so I don't think he's going to get game scripted out. And I'm not sure if you've seen this all over X, Ron, but there is a lot of bulletin board material coming from Cleveland just to kind of ramp up, or I should say, get Derrick Henry's gears turning, if you will, saying that how hard is it to tackle Derrick Henry? And Grant Delpit goes, not hard. And it's like, okay, I think there's a lot of people in the league who would probably disagree with you pretty adamantly. So for Derrick Henry, for me at 8,200, I know he doesn't catch a ton of passes, but he doesn't need to here. If there's anybody on this slate at the running back position that if you said, hey, who's going for 150 and 2 touchdowns, who would your pick be? For me, it's Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So
and you can see too, after that stellar week 1 showing from the Browns, I'm sure I would be throwing all that out there as well. After that loss they had week 1, but again, it's not too many times you can fit in the highest priced quarterback and the highest priced running back and actually feel good about the rest of your lineup. And I think that's what we've done. So I think everything you said is spot on there.
Shout out to DraftKings for the soft pricing. They're always about a week behind or so.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always some soft pricing to be had there. If you play, or if you like to do player props and you find yourself looking for some player props, we have you on the Prop It Like It's Hot podcast. And our next running back is actually someone who is featured there. So Ron, going to the AFC South where you and I both pledge allegiance, although it's a running back for neither of our teams.
Yeah, it's kind of, we're being a little bit of a trader at this point, but that's okay. Another guy that we talked about on the props, and it's Travis Etienne. Again, 16 carries is what the over was. I think he gets that. He went for $143 last week. Tank Bigsby's not there to take any of the carries away. Had 3 grabs as well. So right around that 20 touches, I think you'll get that against Cincinnati, who can't really defend much. I know they looked a little better on defense last week than I thought. But again, going against Joe Flacco, going against what I would say is probably one of the lower end receiving rooms in the league, I don't think that happens again this week. That Jacksonville offense, I know it was Carolina, looked solid last week. Liam Cohen's in there, and Liam Cohen knows how to get his guys the ball, and I think he wants to get Etienne the ball. I think that's why they sent Tank Bigsby out of town. So 21.6 fantasy points on DraftKings last week. Price point $5,700. Nice 1-2 punch there with Derrick Henry at 8,200.
Yep. I can't say anything more. I agree. And if you look last week, I would put more stock into it taking time for Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford to kind of find their footing in Cleveland, more so than Cincinnati's now all of a sudden a rock solid run defense. So I'm just going to leave it as that. And the other way you can look at it too is that despite Sampson and Ford only going for 37 yards on 18 carries, the two combined for 9 catches. It's going to be some users there for ETN, who's obviously known to be a very good pass catcher. I'll jump in with the first receiver here, who is also featured over in the Prop It Like It's Hot podcast. So make sure you check that out and all the great content here on the site. But Devonta Smith is locked and loaded for me. Dallas Goedert missed practice in the week. The team ruled him out. He averaged nearly 70 yards per game and a 27% target share in the, I believe it was 7 games that Dallas Goedert was inactive for last year. So Devonta Smith at 5,600 is simply too cheap. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs say, if we are going to lose to the Eagles again, it's going to be because of Jalen Hurts' right arm, not because of Saquon Barkley crushing them on the ground. Kansas City is a very good run defense. I will give them that. So they're going to have to throw the ball through the air. And if they do, it's going to be a 2-man show. It's A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. And I just think this price point is borderline criminal, I'll say, for Mr. Devonta Smith. Ron, with our lineup here, you and I, going back to last year, we like consistency, and we do usually like to get a stack in there, and this week is no different. So Buffalo's got a couple wide receivers and a tight end that we could look at, but talk to me here about the guy that we settled with, who is Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, when you look at that again, when you look at the stat line that Josh Allen had, somebody has to catch the football. He had 394 yards last week, and it's a matter of who is actually going to go out there and catch passes. Somebody's got to catch them. And Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman were those two guys. Week 1, 6 for 64 for Shakir. Coleman had the touchdown. And we looked at Kincaid a little bit too, but I think this one makes the most sense. You're not getting a lot of consistency out of Kincaid. I believe, when you look at a lot of the tight ends in our consistency model, a lot of guys in that neighborhood are tight end or they're touchdown dependent. If he doesn't get that touchdown, him going 3 for 27 is not going to help you much. I think that Shakir is going to have way more targets. 76 grabs last year. He's not going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. He's not going to have double-digit touchdowns most likely. But I think in this scenario, I think with him working with Allen, I think if you have to pick a number 1 receiver, I think he's going to be that guy. And again, it's all about the price point, $5,500 to get. He got 12.4 points last week in DraftKings system. I think there's no reason that he can't do that against a Jets team that allowed a decent amount of yardage, like we said, to Old Man Rodgers last week. I think DK Metcalf was the leading receiver there. So those number 1 receivers are going to get the run, and I think that shouldn't be any different this week.
Absolutely. And he had 9 targets last week. So if you're going to give me a guy who can get 9 targets at 5,500, you can sign me up. And speaking of big time target share at a low price, Jackson Smith-Njigba had what felt like 38 targets last week. I mean, he's only 6,000 this week. Obviously, you can see he had 23 points last week. I believe it was a 55.6% target share, if I remember that correctly. And it looked like Sam Darnold only had eyes for JSN. Cooper Kupp is washed. I love the guy, but he's done. There's no more fantasy juice to be had with him. It's a one-man show in that passing attack, and it's going to be Jackson Smith-Njigba. And hey, if Aaron Rodgers is going to lead Steelers to scoring points, that's great. The game script will be great for JSN. And then also go look at the Steelers injury report. Joey Porter Jr. and Deshaun Elliott already out. That's 2 members of that secondary. Derek Harmon's out. And then a couple guys out. Alex Highsmith popped up on Friday, limited practice. So if there's a little bit less pressure that can get to Sam Darnold, we know what he can do in a clean pocket. We also know what he can do with a very not clean pocket. So hopefully it is the former there for him. And if so, JSN's in store for 100 plus yards in this game. I feel pretty confident in that. Not 1, but 2 Jaguars make the week 2 consistently passion lineup here for your daily fantasy football needs in week 2. Ron, it's Brenton Strange. Since he couldn't stop the tight ends in week 1 with Harold Fannin and David Njoku combining for 100 yards. Obviously, Brenton Strange was also in the Prop It Like It's Hot article as well, so make sure you go check that out. I can't plug that article enough. A lot of winning player props for you over there, but Brenton Strange at $3,600 is just simply too cheap.
Yeah, four targets last week, 4 receptions for 59 yards. So again, that's not a huge line, but for Brenton Strange, that's pretty solid. And for our tight end rankings, that's probably going to put him towards the top as far as getting a clutch game or not. But again, that price, like you said, is way too cheap. The Bengals were the worst team in the league allowing fantasy points to the tight end last year, and they're off to the exact same start this week. Like you said, 10 for 100 to Cleveland tight ends a week ago. Brenton Strange coming in just under double digits. Wouldn't be shocked if he gets a touchdown this week, but he should. You'd have to think in that offense, especially against the Bengals, that amount of targets is going to go up. Wouldn't be shocked if he saw 7 or 8 targets this week and got that touchdown. But again, all about that price point at $3,600.
And I mean, if we're going to say, hey, if he can give us 3x a salary, you're talking 36, 72, 10.8. Can you get 10.8 points? He had 9.9 last week and now faces the best matchup for tight ends on the board. And then last but not least, in our flex spot, we talked about Dylan Sampson, believe it or not, just because he did have those 8 catches last week. And Joe Flacco, the immobile Joe Flacco, is no stranger to dumping it off to the running back. But after we saw the usage with Hollywood Brown in week 1, Xavier Worthy's listed as doubtful, and like 98% of players that are doubtful end up not playing. And I would imagine they play it safe with Worthy just because how important he is to that team. I mean, Hollywood Brown, good Lord. If he's going to get that workload again, like let's just pull it up here just so we can show everybody right there. 16 targets in week 1. Kansas City's going to be pass happy again. I'm pretty confident it's going to be like that. So I don't know if we've ever seen a guy get 16 targets and be $5,200 the next week. I know it's because DraftKings is about a week behind, but next week, Hollywood Brown, when we do the week 3 consistently cash in, Hollywood Brown's going to be $6,000+. That's just what's going to happen. But we get him here this week at 5,200. We have to do it.
No, I agree. And you remember once upon a time, Hollywood Brown was a pretty solid fantasy receiver as well. He's kind of fell off the wagon a little bit due to injury, a lot of things kind of working against him there, and just Kansas City trying to figure out who that go-to target is. It's obviously, I don't want to say it's not Travis Kelce anymore, but they've got to find that next guy. And with those receivers as inconsistent as they are and missing games and suspensions and injuries and Travis Kelce knocking out his own guys, I think Hollywood Brown's kind of that last man standing. And again, there's no reason to believe that target share doesn't continue.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we got the defense there. Talk about the Rams. Look good in week 1 against Houston. The pressure rate's really good with the front 4. Underrated secondary. Made a heck of a play on the interception on CJ Stroud's pass to Jaden Higgins. So there's some upside there with the Rams going up against a rookie quarterback in Cam Ward and a coach that I don't really believe in at all. So I don't mind the Rams at $3,100 at all. Anything that you want to add about the Rams defense beyond the likes of that front 4 and maybe underappreciated secondary?
No, and it's for me, it was more about who the opponent is. Again, it's a solid defense, but again, Cam Ward, not a mobile guy. He's going to stand there all day and try to chuck it down the field. And beyond Calvin Ridley, there's not really a ton to throw to. They got a couple of decent rookie receivers, but that offense is just not scaring anybody. And it worked out beautifully because it's a team we had in originally, made a couple tweaks to the lineup, and we still had $3,100 left over.
And that's it for you daily fantasy football players out there looking to make a DraftKings lineup for week 2 of the 2025 NFL season. Here's what we got for you here at Consistently Cash into Big Guy Fantasy Sports. We got Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne Jr., Devonta Smith, Khalil Shakir, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Brenton Strange, Hollywood Brown, and the Los Angeles Rams defense. So, Ron, let's go ahead and put a bow on this week's episode. Let everyone know where they can find you and what you got on the site.
Yeah, man, Ron Rigney at the X. Got some stardom sit-ems this week. Going to be using that consistency forecaster that you can have access to if you go over to BigGuyFantasySports.com and sign up. Again, for what you get, for the $20 that it takes to sign up, for what you get over there with all the consistency, with all the articles, it's a no-brainer. It's going to pay off. Again, we did the prop bets already, so go check that out. Go check out the article, too, that you can only check out behind that paywall. It's got those 2 bonus bets in there that we feel real good about, and just tons and tons of good stuff coming out all the time over at BigGuyFantasySports.com.
Don't miss out. Get in while the getting's good. All the great content that we got at the site there. Make sure you give a Ron a follow over on X. You can find me over on X at Colby R. Conway, as well as just pumping out information here on the site with the Consistently Cashing here with Ron. We got the Prop It Like It's Hot article and podcast. And then every Tuesday I have the Who's Hot, Who's Not. So make sure you check that out. But that'll do it for the week 2 edition of the Consistently Cashing podcast. And once again, check out all the great content that we have over here. Best of luck with your week 2 daily fantasy football lineups for the NFL season. And we will see you next week in week 3 for the newest edition of Consistently Cashing.
Yeah, I bet on myself. I bet on myself.